Welcome to Be Provided Conservation Radio, sharing stories and information about the environment, wildlife, and the people who are dedicating their lives to protect the world for future generations. These inspirational stories will take you from the Santa Cruz Mountains to remote areas of Africa.
Hello and welcome back to Be Provided Conservation Radio. I am your host, Marcia Civic, with our guest on Skype today, Meera Sulaiman. Meera is a photographer, artist, and nature lover. I became familiar with her work through Instagram, where she shares her art and photographs of her environment, people, and animals. I felt, even without meeting her, that we are kindred spirits and we share the love for nature and art and wildlife. And she started to pique my interest with her passion around the conservation of trumpeter swans in Ontario, through these beautiful photographs that I was seeing on Instagram. So I was really excited when she agreed to be on the show today. So welcome to the show, Meera.
Thank you so much, Marcia. I'm very excited to be on the show, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really excited to hear your story. And so I'm really curious, how does a Sri Lankan-born woman end up in Ontario, Canada?
That is a long story.
Oh, okay.
Let me not bore you with the details. Yeah. It's all happened actually, like my life, I normally say, like looking back, I never planned for anything. It all happened, I guess, if there's a superpower or a higher power out there. Even the coming to Sri Lanka, I started working in the technology field when I was 17, even just before when I finished my high school in Sri Lanka, basically. And I accidentally started working in the technology field, and I was one of, only female working in 100 plus men who are developers at that time. I was given like 3 months to learn or quit, basically. So I had to learn everything by myself, but I did not quit, or they did not actually kick me out. I ended up staying there for a few years. And during this time, actually, they had offices in the U.S. as well, in Silicon Valley, and some of the colleagues actually started, just for a kind of a fun thing, they wanted to just apply to go to Canada. And we also had a war going on in Sri Lanka, if you might have known, and an ethnic conflict throughout most of my life over there. This was happening, but life still goes on over there. But yeah, that's how it started. It just, I applied for it and I then got it. and I just, migrated by myself here. I didn't actually wanted to leave Sri Lanka at that time. But my mom convinced me at that time to say, that would probably be a better future because of, the challenges that Sri Lanka was facing at that time. Mm-hmm. And the only reason my dad let me come is because my mom's sister was here. And so I ended up staying with them for a year, and then I kind of moved out.
Oh, great. So you did have a connection a little bit. That's nice. Yeah. Yes. What a change from Sri Lanka to Ontario. I like that. What was your first memory of loving animals? It sounds like you started in the technology field and worked at a young age. And how did you get so interested in nature and animals and photography?
All three happened in three different aspects in my life. I don't have a conventional, I would say, a story for many photographers would be where they purchase a camera or been gifted by their family. Mm-hmm. None of, because in growing up in Sri Lanka, mostly obviously it's a nature paradise. And you're surrounded by, a lot of wildlife as well as nature. And you take it for granted at times. You don't really stop and pay attention because it's part of your life. But my mom, she's a very animal-centric lover. We always had, wild stray cats that she feeds, and they end up, spending time at her place and so forth. So she always had dogs with growing up too. She even had a monkey, she told me once, and some chickens. Awesome. So yeah. Forth. Yeah, so I think I get that instinct from her at a very young age. As far as photography goes, I mean, that too was kind of an accidental, a good accident, I would say.
Yes, yes.
I normally, looking back now, I think my photography started with photographs actually from my late grandma, who is my mom's mom. Mm-hmm. She had this thing of collecting old pictures, these black and white, little tiny pictures from different family members and relatives. She used to collect them in boxes. She didn't have them in albums. So when she passed away, I basically was very drawn to these photographs, and those were like memories. So I actually brought the entire collection with me when I moved to Canada. Yeah, all her pictures, and my family still bugs me because I haven't given them money of the pictures. I spent like many hours in those kiosks at the early stages trying to develop those and trying to edit and save those memories. I think that probably started my journey in photography per se.
It's interesting. So your grandmother kind of got you going on this, and I think it's wonderful that you're now into photography, and thank goodness for us for the stories you're sharing, for sure. So one of the things that you're doing that got me interested with wanting to talk to you as well, besides your beautiful photographs, are your photographs of the trumpeter swans and your work with promoting trumpeter swan conservation. And I was just curious because they weren't on my radar before, but now they are. And I didn't understand their whole story until you introduced them to me. So thank you. But can you tell our listeners why trumpeter swans and what are they struggling with, or what were they struggling with as far as conservation?
Yes, trumpeter swans actually, is one of those fascinating birds that goes under the radar because swans in general, we don't, we are fascinated about them, and they are like beloved throughout the history, even going back to ancient history and cultures. Many cultures adore them, but we just, see them in the lakes and we don't really know much about them. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't any different. When I started into wildlife photography, I used to spend quite a lot of time around this specific city. We used to call it, it's been known as a steel city because it started off as an industrial area, and you see huge steel mills and those big smokestacks the moment you start entering the city. But you have this wonderful bird paradise where double-crested cormorants and gulls and bald eagles, they all come every year to raise their young and, go back. So I started my journey around there when I heard about this swan gathering on the other side of the harbor. So one specific winter morning, I started to explore this area and just to identify them, just to see, what's out there. That's when I actually heard them before I actually could see them. They've been named trumpeters. People often see that as comedic until they actually hear how they what they sound like. They do sound like the trumpet, the musical instrument, and they've been named after it. And some days, spending all day with them, I could hear them echo, even coming back home or driving back. They always sound, yeah. That's how my introduction to them started. And when I actually bumped into them, there were about 150, 200 of them in this specific beach area called LaSalle Park in the Burlington Harbor area. And I met Beverly Kingdom, who is one of the long-time volunteers. She spent 40 plus years with this trumpeter swan restoration group, the Ontario Trumpeter Swan Restoration Group. And she explained they were actually doing some banding and tagging. They normally have like a wing tag, a yellow wing tag. They put on the swans as well as a leg band to help them track the trumpeter swans, migration paths, their health and information like that. So this got me actually intrigued by, wanting to learn more about this. This was like almost three years ago.
Wow. So you just happened to meet her when you were out doing your work and just started a relationship? talking to her about this, about the trumpeter swans?
Yes, actually, she just briefly talked to me about that because she was busy, attending to the trumpeters and tagging them and banding them. I was mesmerized because, first of all, the sound hit me, and I've never seen a 200, there were 200 swans there. And later on, I mean, they're huge too. They're like almost 30 to 35 pounds.
Wow.
And an 8 feet wingspan as well. And they are actually the largest swans in the world. And one of the heaviest, probably they will fall under the top 10, the heaviest water birds to take flight. So they're fascinating birds. And then I heard about Harry Lumsden, who is actually, we fondly call him Father Swan. He is actually the reason we have them back in Ontario. Yeah.
Can you explain what happened to them?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So in the 1880s, we basically hunted them to extinction almost. They are actually native to North America. And in Ontario, we basically shot the last one in the 1880s. And in the US, there was about 69 swans left. There used to be more than 100,000 swans across North America. So in the 1930s, they started a reintroduction program commencing from the US. And Harry Lumsden was actually the pioneer here in Ontario. He was retired. He's a retired biologist. And he basically spearheaded this captive reintroduction program. In the 1980s, he actually did this successfully. So today we have from a zero, we didn't have any, to about 1,000 self-contained population here in Ontario, thanks to him.
Wow.
And his dedicated group of volunteers was about probably less than 10 people.
Wow. That's amazing. So 0 to 1,000 since the 1980s then. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And the most inspiring part of it is he's 96.
Oh my gosh. Good for him. Is he still actively involved with all this?
Yep.
Oh,
I met him 2 days ago at the park. He was still, he's there in the park, and he had his little camera, he had his tripod, he had his notepad and a pencil. And I was asking Harry, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm trying to video and document learn about the sleeping patterns of the swans and how do they sleep. And he basically explained to me how, humans, when they sleep, both of their hemisphere, left and the right, shuts down. But the birds, they try to keep one at a time. So he's trying to learn more about it. So there comes my inspiration and the hope.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously, there's always something new to learn, and he's proving it. Yep. So, wow. So do trumpeters, do they stay in that one area, or do they end up migrating part of the year, or are they pretty much in that area all the time, year round?
So trumpeters are actually quite unique. They call a summer home a winter home.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah, they do. Because these swans were initially captive raised, the original migration patterns, they don't have a recollection of it because it wasn't passed on by, their parents. So the first swan to actually, we call them the mini migration. Her name was Pigpen. She was the first wild hatched swan as part of the restoration program. So the reason she was called Pigpen is because she had a very messy eating habit. So they called her Pig, and Pen is referred to all the female swans are referred as Pen, and the males are referred as Cob. So that's how she gets the name Pigpen. So she's the first one to hatch a little bit up north, and she found a wild mate, and she's the first one to basically bring her cygnets, the baby swans, and her family to LaSalle Park. So ever since that, 1/4 of Ontario population come to LaSalle Park every year bringing their, newborn cygnets. So you get about 100, and that's the largest gathering in Ontario. There are other places as well that they gather, but this is the largest gathering in Ontario.
Oh, okay. So what do you call baby swans? Or cygnets?
Yeah, they call cygnets.
Oh, okay. I never knew that. That's interesting. So so this started a little mini migration pattern in a way, huh? Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, because they're still like the hope of the restoration group is that they will soon learn to, go back to their original migration patterns as well. And they're starting to see many trumpeter swans sometimes follow the tundra swans as well. And they end up, going up further north and further south as well.
Okay. So so you said they're with tundra swans as well. Do they mix with them or mate with other swans? Can they interbreed or no? Do you know that?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Yeah.
But they do. The fascinating part is you actually can see 3 different types of swans at this LaSalle Park every year. You get the tundra swans, the trumpeters, as well as the mute swans. I wouldn't say they all get along well, but they do have their territorial. So as long as you don't cross that breed, they're pretty good to kind of stay in the same water area.
When you're watching these and you're photographing them, and like you said, as you drive away, you hear them trumpet, and can you tell like, oh, that's the trumpet of Pigpen, or can you identify certain swans by their various trumpet sounds? Have you been able to do that?
Not yet. I haven't been able to do that yet.
I was going to be very impressed if you could identify the trumpets, but I was just curious. That was just a personal question.
No, yeah. But you could try to see some of the personalities of them. I've tried to.
I bet.
Yeah. Because they're also numbered as well. So you could see their yellow tags, which means they're from Ontario. And each trumpeter has been given a number tag. And some of them are actually been given, fondly given names as well. So you have Ava, you have Salt, you have Glenn, you have the Magics. And they all have very unique personalities. And if they were like, humans, I call them, they sometimes have like soap operas going on, like each family is a story. And because they've been able to tag them and, banding and tagging, marking these swans for the last 40 years, they have a history of each of the swans, basically, on knowing their grandparents as well as their lineage. Yeah, there's some very interesting trumpeting stories, actually, I could share with you if you want to.
I bet. Yeah, you should.
There's all kinds of drama going on in different family groups and so forth. So it's quite entertaining once you get to know the swans and then you invest in them. It's like you get to know individual personality, and that's a little bit different from working with wildlife. These are wildlife basically, but you actually get associated with them as individuals. You see, because
What's your favorite story? Do you have one of a?
I have many that I've heard through, that's been passed down by the restoration group. One specifically, jumps out at me. Actually, there's 2 I could tell you. One is actually kind of a sad story, but a happy ending.
Good.
These swans are called the Magics, actually, because they are the male was named Magic and the female was named Miss Magic. So they used to call them the Magics. When they actually, on this specific year, they had, I think, 4 cygnets, baby swans, and Beverly, who normally they get a sightings details. So whenever they, go from maybe their summer home to their winter breeding home, or they're stopping by in between, people report the tags to them. So Beverly got a call saying, the Magics are on their way to LaSalle Park. So she was very excited to meet this new family. So she goes over, on this specific day to see them. And she sees the female. and she sees three cygnets, and she sees the male, which is magic as well, but he was covered with some kind of a black grease on his neck and so forth.
Oh.
So she was a bit worried, and because sometimes these things could be toxic for them. So she wanted to get him inspected, but she couldn't, catch him on that specific day. She was also worried about that lost cygnet because they had reported there were 4 cygnets, but there were only 3 on that specific day. So she basically stayed for the evening and then she left, and she thought maybe she'll try to catch him the next day. So the next day she comes, she only could find the mom and the three kids. Mm-hmm. The father is missing, so she got even more worried. She's like, 1 cygnet is missing, and now the father is gone missing. So she stayed till almost after sunset, and then she was almost giving up. She kind of, assumed the worst, basically, that had happened. And then suddenly the mom starts flapping her wings and, making the trumpeting calls to see the father is coming with the other lost cygnet.
Oh.
So both of them arrived, and both of them were covered with this black grease kind of material. And Beverly could only speculate, they probably the trouble that they were, the parents, knew enough to bring the family to safety before the father went back to look for the other cygnet and save him and bring him back. So this family actually had 41 cygnets over, I think, an 8 to a 10-year time frame.
Oh my gosh! So they must live a while. How long do they live?
Normally they say they live an average about 12 years or so, but recently they've come to acknowledge that some of the swans actually living and currently are living around 20 years in the wild too, and they're still breeding. Some of them have been spotted even as early as this year.
Wow. So they can breed up until, right up until the end.
Yeah. So
wow.
That was one interesting story.
Oh, yeah. So he brought them all back to safety and Yeah,
and they are very bonded like family.
Yeah.
The trumpeter swan sword is always when I speak to people, they all get fascinated about it. There was another swan story, if you want, I can share as well.
Oh yeah.
Her name was Athena. She bred like around the south side, and she was a single mom. Basically, she was raising. She had a nest, but on this specific spring day, the area was flooded. So her nest started moving, and she was basically tracking her nest as the nest, the water was moving it away, and it ended up close to a railway track.
Oh.
So, the mom, she's a protective mom, and she saw a train coming, and she basically stood in front of the train and, opened her wings and started making all this noise, hoping the train would stop.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the train engineer saw her, but he couldn't stop the train. And he's the one who had reported back her story, saying that this mom, the swan, faced off the train to protect her nest.
Wow, that's amazing. Though that's sad too, but it's a pretty strong story of motherhood too. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you. I figured you'd have some good stories, and you just had. I believe it was in the beginning of November. Was it November 3rd or something? You had a Born with Music photography exhibition, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my first photography exhibit related to conservation, actually. So when I started to photograph them, I wanted to learn more about them and to understand their behavior. It was my goal. Mm-hmm. But only early this year that, it dawned on me that people don't know about this story. There is so much happening in this world where, species are going extinct, and there's a lot of negativity around, but there is this positive story of one of the most successful conservation stories in our lifetime that people don't know about. So I thought it would be good to, generate more awareness and to let people should know about the story. So that's how my journey started into having this photography exhibit in order to educate the public about this story and raise awareness for the cause for conservation.
That's terrific, and I assume you had a good turnout. It sounded like a lot of fun. You were having a guest speaker and some music, and yeah, it sounded like a wonderful event. I wish I was close by.
Yeah, it actually ended up being quite a lot of fun. I leading up to it, I did a few children's conservation painting sessions as well, trying to get them to paint their swans and sharing some stories with them. They liked the magic story, and I told them about another swan named Ava, which is a special swan to her story as well. And so they painted, and I had their painting as part of my exhibit, and I had about 25 pieces of photography and a couple of stories, boards that I created for the trumpeter swan, this families. And then I had lists from the trumpeter swan restoration group come and talk about the swans. And I had Beverly, we call her the mother swan. She was also present. So we had I had it for 2 days, so we had, I think, about 200 or so people showed up, and it's all done like locally for me. So
congratulations. That sounds like a wonderful event. And I love that I saw some of the artwork you shared on Instagram of the children, and I thought that was fun to get them involved and start with that generation, getting them interested in this. So
Yeah. It actually, this is the first time I did some, I used to paint with my nieces and nephews, but when I painted with the children, they actually inspired me, and they actually were very keen to know about these swans. Some of the parents later on called me and sent me messages saying that the kids immediately want to go see the swans after they painted them. And there was one kid who was 8 years old. She actually wrote on her on her painting saying, "Live in harmony like dusk and dawn." That was kind of very touching and moving as well for me personally.
Oh, yeah. So are you finding that, so you're seeing kind of a spark in people's awareness about the swans in the area? And I would hope so anyways.
Yes, actually, the winter habitat that they're currently the LaSalle Park that I was talking to you about, that has been going through a little bit of a battle with. It's in a marina. It's like in a small marina as well. So the marina wants to expand it and to build like a permanent break wall. Which will mean that it would basically, stop the wave action to the beach and would basically freeze the water on that area more often, which will be a challenge for the trumpeters. So Liz, she's been with Beverly. She's been trying to fight that battle for the last 7 years now. And this year they had some good, successful outcome where actually the city is going to try to support the trumpeter swans and actually not go about building that brick wall so far. So which was a good outcome too. And I also got some media attention locally I feel like this is kind of a starting of getting the message out. I want to continue to educate the public and educate, and kind of making sure that, ultimately I would like to see is, this whole LaSalle Park transform into a celebration whenever the trumpeter swans come there. Even there are places in the U.S. as well as in Japan and stuff, they celebrate the swans. They have festivals, art, music, and things along that. I want it to be like an annual event where people can come see these swans and celebrate and be part of nature.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you have coming up, and it sounds like you're going to continue with educating about the trumpeter swans. And I was just curious if you had anything else going on that you wanted our listeners to hear about, and any ways they can help with some of these projects that you're working on.
They could definitely help with the trumpeter swans, or like even their local wildlife and conservation, initiatives too. They have a website. I can send those information to you too, that they can help with, adopting swans as well.
Oh.
Actually, part of the exhibit, I basically said all the profits or any sales that I make, I'll be donating it to the Swans Restoration Group. And I was so happy that, I was able to raise about $1,500 that I used to adopt 10 swans, trumpeters, for about a year. So that was pretty cool. And you also get to name some of them too as part of the adoption program.
Oh, cool.
So if people are interested, especially now in the Christmas season, they can always go to the Wymarsh website and adopt swans. So they also have other animals that they can adopt. Help and be, if they can, to be a voice for these voiceless. Even if that means just, sharing some information or posting a comment. Or being more responsible around wildlife.
Yes.
I always tell people, if then they ask me what they can do, I think one of the things as a photographer, I like to tell them is, today we all are kind of mini photographers with our mobile phones and our drones and, all kind of technological equipment. But we should not put ourselves or the animals in danger just for a picture. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that too happening quite a lot around, wildlife, when people try to take this selfie or, try to take pictures. So I tell them to be a little more, respect the animal too. And, if they don't have the opportunity to take a picture, that's fine. But the animal's safety and their well-being it doesn't need to come as the cost of a picture.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I actually interviewed another photographer, Jennifer Leigh Warner, who works with the ethical group of photography, and she talked a lot about that, and yeah, I think just enjoying the experience of being with an animal instead of trying to get a selfie with it is much better, but I know.
I know we all want to take a picture, but it's okay to take a picture as long as you don't harass the animal or put the animal in danger. The other day I saw someone using a drone very close to the waterfalls and the trumpeters right there, and they were disturbing them. They were sleeping. And this thing was like going back and forth right on their head.
Oh no!
We went to look for them, but we couldn't find, because people could be anywhere, right?
So, they can go so far now.
So far, And some people, I remember in Niagara Falls, was giving some plastic pebbles to the gulls over there in trying to get them come across the falls to take a picture.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, that was just
that stuff really just disturbs me.
I know, these are just the minor things for us, right? But if you go to Niagara Falls, you'll see the birds never actually fly around, where the falls drop. They normally come either around, I think maybe, I'm not an expert on that, but I think maybe it's the current or something like that. But on this specific day, the birds were risking their lives to come above that in order to collect whatever this guy was giving them. And I had to have a chat with him and say, don't do that.
Well, good. Good. Hopefully it was well received. I've chatted with people like that before, and it's not always well received.
Yeah, sometimes it's, but I couldn't watch them especially him feeding them plastic pebbles.
Yeah, I just can't let that go either. I would have to say something too. Oh, well, good for you. Well, leaving that note, I always ask people, before I let you go on for your evening, because it is late there. I'm sorry. What gives you hope? I know we did talk about some sad stuff, but there's a lot of hope out there yet, and I'm just curious, what gives you hope?
I think different things I get inspired and get hope in different aspects of life. But when you talk about just the trumpeter swans itself, Harry Lumsden gives me tremendous hope at his age, at 96.
Oh, yeah.
I normally tell people, we always tend to, anyone say, one person cannot change the world. But here is an example of this one person who cared enough to bring the species back from extinction. Mm-hmm. He gives me tremendous hope, and people like him who still care, like Jane Goodall, and many other, even who cares enough to work on conservation and giving a voice to the animals, gives me tremendous hope, as well as the younger generation. I know many of the younger generation today are not directly connected with nature. They're more connected with video games and things like that.
Right.
But I think once we start to educate them, the children especially me working with these children and seeing some of them in the wild, and some of them even coming on trips to see the trumpeters. The young kids, they come, I think that they're day school trips, and they to see. They give me a lot of hope in saying that someday they will be able to be a voice for these voiceless and protect the nature and our home, literally, which is this beautiful blue planet.
Mm-hmm. Yep, well said. And I think all the work that you are doing as well gives us hope here. And and thank you for all you do, and don't give up, and we'll just try to keep getting the word out there on all this stuff and get people inspired to do the same. So thank you, Meera.
Thank you so much, Mazia. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I know I could go on talking.
I learned a lot, so thank you.
Thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio. Links and resources to today's topic are in our show notes on iTunes. We appreciate your dedication and interest in protecting our natural world for future generations. If you like what you heard, please get involved by volunteering, donating, and sharing these podcasts with your friends. It also helps us to inform more people if you take a minute to leave a rating or review on iTunes. Have a great day, and thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio.